snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hi guys, so I am here today to do a book review, and the book that I'm going to be reviewing is A Darker Shade of Magic, which is by V E Schwab. This is her adult fantasy series. I was quite intrigued by this and I didn't really know if I was going to pick it up or not, but I ended up getting it in my Waterstones book haul, which my boyfriend bought most of the books for, so he bought me this. And I actually did a buddy read of this book with my friend Will, who has a blog, so I will put a link to that down below for you guys to go and check him out. And we read this together on and off, and it was interesting. It was definitely an interesting read. This is my second Victoria Schwab book, because I actually read The Archived by her like a year or two ago, and I ended up giving The Archived 3 out of 5 stars. It was okay, but there wasn't anything amazing about it, and this book was kind of in the same league. It was a little bit better. I ended up giving this one a 3.5 stars, but I just don't know if I get on with her writing so much, so let's get into why. I think Victoria Schwab's work is really readable. It's very easy to get through, it's very likeable, but it's nothing spectacular, which is a shame because I think she has some excellent ideas, innovative and exciting ideas that I've not seen anywhere else, and these ideas just tend to get lost because they're not developed enough and we don't really understand them and we don't get the backstory. So unfortunately, even though this is a really cool premise and there's a lot of elements that are really cool, the whole book just lacked development in my opinion. This is the story of Kel. Kel is a young magician who has the ability to travel between worlds, something that has been lost over many generations, and there's only 2 magician people like him who can actually travel between the worlds at the moment. A lot of them have died or been killed off, so he's one of the last people who can travel between worlds. And in this story there are 4 different worlds, essentially. We have Red London, Grey London, White London and Black London. All of these different worlds are a version of London. Grey London, which is essentially our world, it's kind of set in the bottom of England and that is our London. Basically all they share is the name, so we then have Red London, which has magic within London. It's a different layout, it's not the same town, it just shares the name with Grey London. And it's magical, so there's a lot of magical things, like the Thames is magical and the people in the world are magical, they have a different language, it's not in England, stuff like that. And I love that idea. Then we have White London, and White London is also magical. Not really a good magic, it's kind of being sucked dry, people are being corrupted by the magic, there's some evil rulers who are ruling it, and generally it's just not a real nice place. A lot of people die there and a lot of corruption is kind of always in that world, so you don't really want to spend a lot of time there. And then finally we have Black London, and Black London was once awesome and had a lot of magic, but it then kind of turned on itself and it was so corrupted that all of the other Londons actually shut it off and no one ever goes there, no one is allowed there, no one can get in because it was so warped by magic that it just became so unstable, no one wanted to go there and it was terrifying. So those are the 4 different Londons, and I'm sure you guys could agree that's a great idea. It sounds really cool, I love the idea. But we barely see any of it, we barely get any more information than what I've just told you, and we don't learn any of the history of Black London, we don't learn any of the history of White London or anything. We just get told this is how it is, now go explore it, and that's what our main character does. I love the idea of it being set in London because I actually live in London, well my dad does, so I'm often there. I could definitely imagine it, but it wasn't actually referenced at all, considering Grey London is a large part of the story. We don't get any reference to any of the architecture or anything, so I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it seems a bit weird to call it London and then not reference anything in London, in the sort of grey London that is meant to be set in England, meant to be our London. That was a little bit odd for me. It was kind of jarring to read the name London and have no reference to any of it, so that was a bit weird. I could understand it not being referenced in the magical worlds, but the normal grey London. I also really enjoyed the idea of multiple worlds being connected together. I like that idea, I think it's interesting, and I thought that it was done well. And I also love the fact that each different world basically had a different relationship with magic. So we had some that didn't have any and some that were being totally corrupted by magic, and I liked seeing that relationship. I thought that was very, very interesting as a reader to learn about. However, once again, unfortunately, it wasn't expanded upon to the level I would have liked it to be. It could have been so much more awesome. and it just wasn't there. The characters that we follow in this include Kel and Lila, and I liked both of them. I thought they both had interesting quirks to them, but I found Lila a little bit predictable as a character, and Kel also was a bit predictable, but I just resonated a bit more with him because the story mostly focuses on him. I liked the fact that Kel was magical, but he was also one of the few travellers left. I also really liked his kind of cynical attitude toward things, his carefree outlook despite the fact that he was basically trapped under the royal command. I think his character was definitely fleshed out more than Lila's. I didn't feel like I got to know Lila over the course of the book. I got to feel like I knew Kel more. And I also really loved Kel's magical coat. I really want one of them. They sound amazingly cool. If you've read the book, you'll know what I mean, but if not, you see it quite early on. Lila is a thief who we meet in Grey London. She predictably kind of gets caught up in the adventure and Kel's storyline after they have a chance meeting. I thought she was a good friend to Kel. I thought she had some good moments, but I just felt like I didn't really care about her as much as I did about Kel, and I was more invested in his storyline, even though they did kind of converge. I think the predictability of her character just made her role a little bit annoying and dull for me, so I wasn't as excited as I could have been for her because I could kind of guess where she was going to go next. Overall, if you want a very fun, readable story, then this is definitely it, but it doesn't have enough development to make it a 4-star book or a 5-star book. It's got really cool ideas, there's moments that I really like, but equally it's just not fleshed out enough, and if it was like another half again of the book, it would have been probably a much better read and I would have really connected with the characters more, but because it didn't have that development, I could only give it a 3.5 stars, which is still good. I still would recommend it if you want that light-hearted fun read, but it's just nothing spectacular, unfortunately. So I would love to hear what you guys thought of this book if you've read it recently. I believe it's the first one in a series and the second one is coming out sometime next year maybe. So I will probably read the blurb of the second one and then decide if I want to continue. I'm not sure whether I will or not, it depends who it focuses on. But I would love to hear your thoughts, so do leave me the comments down below and I will see you all very soon in another video. Bye! Me and you gonna have a little chat.